Hello friends, neighbors, John your Whiskey Neighbor here, welcome down the Nook. It's Sunday, so we're going to shoot some samples. And this actually will be a continuation of a couple of weeks ago when I walked through some samples from Lochlea Distillery. Here I'm going to go through their first release, then something they call our Barley, and then I'm going to end up with the fourth of their 4-season releases. I actually had this cam, and you're a gentleman for giving me another one because I said I didn't have it, but this will be Fallow. So I've talked to you about Lochlea before. This will be, I haven't talked about these, nor have I tried these. So if you have any single malt Scotch from Lochlea Distillery, why don't you pour a dram? Come on back, we'll share these thoughts, we'll nose, we'll taste, we'll just see where we go. 3, 4. Thanks for coming back. As I said in the opener, this is like part 2 of quite a good walkthrough of Lochlea single malts. Cam from PWS Imports gave me samples from basically almost all of their releases, and I myself have bought a few of them. This is their harvest. I'll put it here just so you can kind of see the bottle and recognize, very characteristic shape and approach. Something else that I'm discovering as I've been reading a bit more, watching a video by John Campbell, their master distiller, is they are certainly building quality Scotch releases. These are young. The ones I've sampled have been young, but from all the transparency of casking, from always natural color, non-chill filtration, they're really approaching building Scotch the way a lot of us Scotch drinkers are getting excited to consume Scotch. And just looking at these, they all have a very different look, and I love that because of that natural color. It's honest, it's integrity, and of course they're non-chill filtered. So I know that's a bit of a positive rant. We'll see how the Scotch itself tastes, but perhaps I've already given you some of my bias. I'll take everything with a little bit of grain of salt. I'm going to start first with the first release. So this is a 46%. It's obviously going to be as young as any of these as a first release. I believe it has first fill bourbon casking and then PX sherry casking, but I'll tell you, from the natural color, I certainly wouldn't guess any PX. But let's dive in. Lochlea's first release on the nose. And on the nose, I would say yes, there's a nice orchard fruit. Other kind of, like I find it kind of fruity, but not right away into a PX, maybe the sweetness. In fact, I would almost give grainy, nutty part of that on the nose. Almost dusty grain, but coming back, the fruit is ripe. And maybe even if I'm going to go off orchard, well, I'm going to stay pretty close to like a sweeter pear, I think. Yeah, I'm happy that. Sweet pear on the nose, then a little bit of dusty, grainy, slight almond kind of nut kicking around in there. Wow. Let's try it on the palate. Sláinte. So in the palate, I would say it for sure speaks to its youthfulness. In this context, youthfulness is a bit more of that grainy, yes, malty, but malt sugars, and then I'm getting almost a bit of a cream of wheat note that to me that really speaks of some good core distillate. And there in the slightly longer finish, some of the fruits return. They come back very similar to what's on the nose, some sweet pear, some maybe like a yellow big raisin type, we're chewing around on some dryness now because we've got a bit more oak on the finish. The nose, maybe far palate can give me some vanilla. First fill bourbon, I'm surprised I didn't get a bit more of those notes, little toffee, butterscotch. I usually get those on bourbon. I mean, first fill. But it is speaking youthful, well-crafted spirit. Tasty, a little bit peppery, little bit slight astringency. This is good. But I think with time, we're going to see a little better, but certainly a tasty dram. So let's go over to the second one. That is their Barley. So this one features barley grown on their farm, and it is a little bit darker in color, and it could be because here we've got Oloroso casks. It is first fill bourbon again. Now we've got Oloroso casks, but we also have the STR, the shaved toasted recharred barrels. Maybe that could be giving some dark color too. Let's see how their own barley put in a couple more casks go. It's also all of these 46% natural color, non-chill filter. The presence of sherry. I know this has PX, but aside from sweetness, it's not playing around lots. But this absolutely adds to the nose with a little more leather, a little more ripe, a little more balanced fruit. Well, this is sprightly and fun, but this one, I would say just nose is more mature, darker fruit, rounder fruits, malt. Yeah, I've got malt and sugar, but it's not punchy and it's not grainy. Let's try it on the palate. Sláinte. In the palate for me here, we've also added a fair amount more oak in the conversation. So a little more backed by oak, a little more maybe tannic, not quite, but I'm there's a bit of a, I almost said reed. Boy, I haven't done a wind instrument in a long time, but I've got a little more oak quality in the palate with the darker fruits and those malt sugars. There's still some sweet orchard fruit. If I'm playing around with it, there's still some of this really ripe pear that I get with the first release continued in here. Spicing is there, but it's backed off for now. Christmas spicing. By that, I mean a mix of sweet and spice, and it's not as peppery or as hot on the tongue. Still young, but tasty, and certainly showing more maturity perhaps, but also the selection of casking, I think, has given a really nice backing. I like to say that when I get the right amount of oak, I don't know, everyone has a different right amount of oak. Some like very little in the conversation and some like a little more. And in this one, I do like how it's added to the flavors. Final one up here is the Fallow. It's part of the Four Seasons. I believe this one has only been aged in ex Oloroso, and certainly its natural color is significantly darker than the other two up here, so that matches. Though it's interesting because a lot of their expressions really do have some first fill ex bourbon, so this could be a departure. Let's try Fallow on the nose and palate. It is singing that tune, leathered, darker, currant, fig. So it's a little pithy, a little grainy. Not grainy, I mean. It is certainly a full sherried Scotch. Let's try it on the palate. Sláinte. Following that nose, definitely blackberry, dark currant, little bit of prune. I think I'm speaking that in contrast to this. I don't think on its own it's going to be like those notes are sherry bomb. I can't say it's sherry bomb, but it is present strong sherry notes. Certainly now a little bit of Christmas cake, a little bit of nutmeg, a little bit of here I had some whiffs of almond. Here it's sliced almonds with walnut or like something a little more husky in the Christmas nut mix. It certainly is speaking ex-sherry. I love all those notes, and right now I'm a little more ex-sherry than where I've been in the past. Having said that, it doesn't quite have the same oak backing that I was getting in this Barley release, which is something else that I really like in my palate. So here, almost in the long finish, goes a little bit bitter, which isn't so great. However, these are good single malts. They are all young, the first release even more so, but they're all integrity, and I'm really liking what John Campbell's doing. I know he was over at Lefroy, but this is craft work. These are good releases, and I have certainly enjoyed this harvest edition here, and I'm quite confident that if not this, I will bring home another bottle of Lochlea in the future. Probably have a Lochlea on the counter for some time. It's some good stuff. What are your thoughts on any of the Lochlea releases? Have you had any of these? What did you think of that very first one, or our Barley, or have you tried the Fallow, which is only Oloroso? Just throw some thoughts down there and get some conversation going. Thanks for joining me here. Hope your week coming up is fantastic.